to you.
Absolutely.
And, guys, we are in for a treat tonight. Thank you so much, Dr. McKee, for rushing home from a busy day and for sharing all that you're passionate about with us tonight. So go ahead and take it away, Kelly.
Wonderful. Well, hopefully some of you guys know me, but for those of you that don't, my name is Kelly Lepsha. I'm a physical therapist by background. My husband and I own a clinic and specialize in the long-term recovery of stroke and traumatic brain injury, but have had a huge passion over the last 4 or 5 years for wellness, because truly, in order to help our patients recover, they need cellular wellness as part of their package. And we always knew something was missing. And so it's been truly a pleasure to take this journey in health and wellness and get to meet so many people. And first and foremost for, Jenny Crane, and thank you for helping to saying, let's put these together. And Jenny's been a huge mentor for myself and just become a just amazing friend. So thank you, Jenny, so much. And you guys, tonight, truly, I don't want to take any further time away, but I really want to introduce you to someone who I've really gotten to know as of really recently. But this is Dr. Shawn McKee, and I met her several times for short bursts at some of our company's events. Really, I think 1 or 2 events ago when it was super fun that, gosh, you guys will get to understand the power behind all of this. And between Dr. Shawn McKee and Dr. Nancy Bryan and Dr. Sveta Silverman and Dr. Rebecca Glasser, I could go on and on, but these women are like powerhouses of knowledge who are just like, everyday women and moms like all of us and living a busy world. They're also doctors with huge knowledge, but it's been a blessing to have them in our lives and truly help build an amazing business with them. So tonight, we have the pleasure of having double board certified neuroradiologists. So you guys, not just a radiologist, but it's a specialty to become a neuroradiologist. And like myself, if people are coming to me, that's kind of bad news. They've had a stroke or brain injury. If people are coming to her, it's typically bad news. And I'll let her fill you in on that. But, and amongst her amazingly busy professional life, she also is a 2-time Ironman triathlete and ultra marathoner. And I know myself, I've done 3 half Ironmans, and the training that I've had to go through to endure in 3 half Ironmans is nothing compared to what she's done for her training. So putting it in a busy schedule is like an understatement. I'm not sure where you got all that time. Give me your secret of where you found more time. I think you just didn't sleep. But she is also married to an amazing gastroenterologist who, again, I got to have the pleasure of meeting and spending more time with on our trip to the Bahamas. And she is a mom of 2 amazing teenage boys, and myself as a mom of, I had 4 teenagers, but as of Sunday, my 19-year-old turned 20. So now I can only say I have 3 teenagers. But without further ado, gosh, I just want to welcome you on. And if you could give everybody maybe just a little bit of an overview of what you do, kind of what a typical day is for you and what your job really entails.
Well, wow. Thank you for that introduction, Kelly. I really appreciate it. And my husband and I both enjoyed meeting you and Arthur, and just you guys are a great asset to our company. So thank you for everything you all do. Yeah, you're right. You never want to need my services. If you need my services, it means there is a headache or a pinched nerve and you can't feel your leg, or you double vision, or something is going wrong in your brain pan or in your spine. And I'm the detective that will tell your doctor why you have a ringing in your ear, or why your foot is dragging behind you, or why you have, your eyes are deviating, or whatever. Those things, you just never want to need my services unless it was for me to say, nope, looks good, and you've got to figure out something else. But what I do is I read MRIs predominantly, sometimes CT scans, and other studies of the brain and spinal canal, nerve roots, that kind of thing. Also read occasionally, shoulder, knee, hip MRIs, sports medicine, but predominantly the bulk of my practice is the brain and spine. And, I used to think it was the best job in the world. I just thought, because when I was a medicine resident, or even a medical student, whenever there was something wrong with our patient, the whole medical team would go around, and we would all go to the basement, because at the time the radiology department was in the basement, because that's where there are no windows. And, we all, have to read backlit images. So we all go to the basement, and we would do radiology rounds to determine why Mrs. Jones had a headache or why Mr. Smith's foot was dragging or whatever the case may be. And the radiologist would always give us the answer. And it was the neatest thing. And I was like, wow, that's like Sherlock Holmes. I want to do that. And the brain just fascinated me, of course, because, as you know, as a, specialist in brain injuries, the brain is such a fascinating organ. So, and we used to think it was fixated. It was not mutable. Once it was damaged, we thought that was it. They can't recover those brain cells. And now we've learned in the last 6 years that there is neuroplasticity, and it's really exciting. And my dog is saying, dog plasticity. Hold on a second. Right now. This is Doodles, and he's being very bossy.
It's our extra children, right?
Right. I just got home, and he's like, where's the ball throwing? This is what we do when we get home. So yeah, I just love what I do. But I forgot the second part of your question. It's like, that was basically, it was to describe what I do.
Yeah. And then, like a typical day for you, I mean, obviously you're so busy being, a wife and a mom and juggling a career, and, what does your typical day look like? And then, as we kind of get into learning about this business, thinking like, how did you even fit that in? But what does your typical day look like?
Well, when I first found out about this, okay, so I used to practice at an imaging center, and then subsequent to that, I moved my practice to a wellness center, and now I actually read from home. My whole practice is at home. So I do remember when I first found out about this, my mom was actually undergoing some significant challenges. She had floor of the mouth cancer. She was a smoker, and she had to go to, she had to undergo radiation. And then there was a recurrence. So ultimately she went to MD Anderson for her treatment. And it turns out that she needed a huge surgery where basically they took out the mandible and actually did a free flap with a bone segment from her leg. If you can imagine. A very horrific operation, just horrible. And so I thought, well, I need to go with her. She's my mom. So I literally took 2 weeks off to go with her to MD Anderson and be with her. And when I was gone, of course, my grandmother has Alzheimer's, my grandfather, is frail. All this is going on. We've got pets to take care of at all three of these houses, my grandparents, my mom's, my own house. I'm not there. My practice is, still has employees, technologists, assistants, and now, what do you call those, locum tenens, radiologists, right? So I'm paying all these people to do the work that I'm not there to do. And I'm getting further and further behind with things that I need to take care of. And my outgo is so much higher because I'm not there. And I'm there with my mom, and I love being able to be with my mom. And I'm thinking, how do people do this? How do people take time out of their practice? And if you have a practice, you don't have a job. The job has you. You are the job. And I kept thinking, oh my gosh, how do people deal with life, Because up until that point, I would take off an afternoon if I wanted to do a 6-hour ride or whatever, but I would schedule it out, But occasionally I would actually have to cancel it because there would be an add-on patient that needed supervision, and I couldn't do it. Or I couldn't go to my son's swim meet because there was an add-on patient or an emergency. And it's like, so those things were like minor, and I was like, oh, well, I could adapt to that. But I'm like, when I had to take off 2 weeks to be with my mom for such a major thing, and I had a grandmother with Alzheimer's, I was like, this is so hard. There's got to be a better way. And of course, during this time, my body, my, health took a toll, right? Mm-hmm. Because I was, having all these stressors, and I was kind of like, well, how do people, stay healthy with all these stressors? And LifeVantage came into my life at that exact moment and answered both of those questions for me. It was a beautiful thing.
Wow. Well, I'm going to let Jenny, just start and ask you a couple questions, I think, about this whole new field.
Yes, I'm going to take it away, Sean. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. It's so great connecting with you. Let's dive into the science, because I know people want your take on the science of NRF2 and NRF1 activation. We know that things are shifting from, covering up a disease, putting people on medications, into prevention, the wellness arena, everything from stem cells to all of these new and different ways of prevention of disease in the body. But within your field specifically, the neurological field, can you explain to us the the importance of this new groundbreaking field of NRF2 and NRF1 activation, specifically regarding your field in neuroradiology?
Well, the brain is, largely water, so 70% water, but of the part of the brain that is not water, the solid portion of the brain is like 70% fat. Now, if you think about fats, okay, fish oils, olive oil, peanut butters, nut butters, anything that has fat in it, if it's exposed to the air, what does it do? It oxidizes, it turns rancid, it goes bad, right? Well, here's your brain, this exquisite organ that is 70% fat, and we breathe oxygen. So the damage that can occur to our brain just through the act of living, eating, breathing is tremendous, and it will take its toll. And when you read images of older brains, there's always these little things we call ischemic gliotic changes, and they're really non-specific areas of damage to our brains directly from oxidation or poor vascularization. And the brain really does respond well when that oxidative stress can be removed from the equation. And many of the drugs that are being developed today are really trying to address this free radical damage, which is another word for oxidative stress or oxidation. So we do see the direct results of oxidative stress, and we see potentially the results of reducing that in patients that have conditions that are related to oxidative stress.
And what is the significance primarily of the NRF2 protein and the NRF2 pathway? I know that many pharmaceuticals now are in the process of developing a lot of drugs that are going to be considered NRF2 activators. Can you specifically explain, I think many people want to hear the science of what does this entail specifically for the body, and why is this so significant, specifically that you're the one educating most of the medical community? I mean, we're the first people really bringing this science to the medical community. Can you explain what that means?
Well, the NRF2 pathway is really the master regulator of the body's stress response, and it really senses, it's kind of like a thermostat. It kind of sits dormant in cells and just basically takes a pulse of the stress of the cell, and when it's exposed to stress, whether that's from excessive exercise or maybe radiation exposure or chemical exposure, some toxicity, some heat stress, when that stressor activates the NRF2 protein, it becomes separated from a protein that holds it in the cytoplasm of the cell. It goes into the nucleus and it binds to what's called the antioxidant response element, or really the locus on the DNA that codes for survival genes. That when it actually binds to that, these survival genes are produced, things like superoxide dismutase and catalase and glutathione and heme oxygenase and other proteins that are heat shock proteins, that are housekeeping proteins, that are anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and also at the same time turns down the inflammatory cascade, the proteins that code for inflammation and damaging cytokines. So when NRF2 is active, and in childhood it's very active, it's very responsive, it's hypervigilant. As we get older, it becomes kind of sluggish. And I liken it to a rheostat. You can turn it down, you can turn it up. When you're a child, it's turned all the way up and it's super active and responsive. And as we get older, that rheostat just kind of turns down. And there are natural ways to kind of activate that rheostat, turn it back up to the level of a healthy child.
Awesome. Well, let's shift into the NRF1 pathway. That was such a great explanation as to keeping it simple and for all of us to understand this new science. But, we're coming into this idea that mitochondrial health, Time Magazine came out with that huge article about mitochondrial dysfunction and how this is really taking a toll not only on our bodies, but on our brains, on our gut, everything. Can you give us a simple way for all of us people to understand, normal people that aren't, of course, medical professionals, the significance of the NRF1 pathway and mitochondrial dysfunction, and why this is going to be the future of prevention and the future of how we manage healthcare? It's exciting. So can you explain that to us?
Well, basically, the science on NRF1 today is equivalent to the science on NRF2 10 years ago. NRF1 stands for Nuclear Respiratory Factor 1, and respiratory doesn't mean breathing as in oxygen. It's really the process that our bodies utilize oxygen at a cellular level to create energy, to create ATP, these packets that are really the source of energy for our cellular function. And I'm sure everybody remembers from junior high, or high school biochemistry that mitochondria are the powerhouses of the cell. Well, they produce 95% of our ATP. And there are many ways that we can try to improve the mitochondrial health, and there's lots of supplements, alpha-lipoic acid, there's coenzyme Q10, there's I'm blanking on the word, but basically, excuse me, but there are lots of activators of the mitochondrial biogenesis pathway, but the overarching regulatory pathway is NRF1. And if you can turn on the NRF1 pathway, then you're going to increase mitochondrial biogenesis in a huge way, better than just kind of trying to guess and add these little individual supplements here and there. The brain, the heart, the ovaries, these organs have the most mitochondria. And you can imagine they're the most energy intensive organs. And, ovary is going to be producing an egg that will produce a future life. Brain is, obviously very metabolically active, as is the heart. And as we get older, the oxidative stress that produces these toxic free radicals ends up damaging everything in our body, the cells, the DNA, but especially the mitochondrial membranes, because the mitochondria are they're the source of that energy production. Therefore, they're the source of the exhaust, the free radical, the toxic byproducts. And so those toxic byproducts and free radicals damage the mitochondrial membrane, which is very close to the source and unprotected. Once it reaches a certain level of damage, it's no longer producing energy, it's producing exhaust, and then the body goes, you know what, this mitochondria needs to go, and it recycles that, turns it into, just disposes of it through a process called apoptosis, and it takes the, just kind of the raw materials and recycles them, but now the cell's operating with fewer mitochondria. So this NRF1 pathway, what it does is it increases that mitochondrial biogenesis, so each of the cells ends up increasing the number of mitochondria, so it works better. There's more cellular energy to do the things that the cells do.
That's awesome. I want to wrap this up and bring it back to the neuroelasticity comment, because I know Kelly and I covered this last week when we were talking about the brain and the gut. And of course, we're figuring now that, our immune system is in our gut. So before we kind of go into that portion of the interview today, will you just explain the concept? And before I guess you can explain this, I'd like to give let people know that these statements are not meant to cure, treat, prevent, or mitigate disease. We want to make sure that we're being very compliant as we're sharing this interview today. But can you explain the concept of neuroelasticity, and within the last 6 years, the progression of, stem cell research and repairing the body and recovering it on a cellular level, and how important it is for people to understand what we actually have on our hands regarding that aspect, because it's huge. I think that that's what sets us apart from many things that are being shared on the market today. There's many different options for people, yet what's affordable, what can we actually give them that they're going to be able to make realistic for them and really their health. So can you explain that to us?
Well, when I was being trained in my residency, we were taught that once there was a stroke, that area was just, once it was infarcted, as the word is, where the blood supply is cut off, it's gone. It's completely, it's going to be dead, not salvageable. And then there was this area around the stroke called the penumbra that was vulnerable. And, for example, if a person had a brain injury due to drowning, it was pretty much that where their brain was, the knowledge at the time was where their brain was at the end of the drowning, when they became, able to register brain function, that was going to be the best they could be. All we can do is try to support them and help them deal with that. But, as we experienced more and more episodes of maybe some children that had similar issues, and we thought, well, this is where the child is going to be. They're going to be this way for the rest of their life. And we discovered, oh my goodness, they're recovering function, they're recovering speech, they're recovering motion. And then the world is beginning to know that, brain cell function can be restored. And there are many things we can do to augment that. You know, we can reduce the cytokines that the brain is functioning, or that the brain is producing from inflammation. So, you know, people give steroids, people give various things, and acetylcysteine, to try to decrease inflammation in the brain. And now we're discovering that it's just way bigger than we ever imagined, that the brain can literally rebuild and form new cells that we thought previously was impossible. So reducing oxidative stress, improving mitochondrial dysfunction, those are absolutely germane to this whole concept of neuroplasticity and growing new brain cells and the potential for neuroregeneration. So yes, it's very exciting science.
Wow, I love it.
Sometimes I feel like I have to pinch myself that we have our hands on stuff that's so amazing, right?
Absolutely. I agree with you, Kelly. Well, let's move into our gut and our brain health before I push it back over to Kelly. You know, we're finding that our immune system, really our gut is going to determine our immune system and our brain. And can you explain the importance of having the proper nutrition in our gut, specifically regarding probiotics, and really what sets our probiotic as you know, apart, I believe, and above and beyond what we're finding on the market today? So can you just explain maybe the science behind that, and then maybe talk a little bit about our technology and why it's patented and why it's so incredible regarding the you know, gut brain health connection?
Absolutely. You know, when we look at population studies of the United States, North America versus sub-Saharan Africa, you know, there's just a huge disparity in terms of incidence of Alzheimer's, for example. I mean, here we are in the, you know, most developed society, you know, we've got all the advantages, all the budget and whatnot, and we have this humongous incidence of Alzheimer's in sub-Saharan Africa, where they, you know, just don't have access to any of this advanced medical care. They have practically no Alzheimer's. And if you look at the one thing that may correlate, it really is the prevalence of certain species of microbes in the gut. And they've actually done this population studies through other populations and found that the incidence of certain strains of bacteria really do correlate with less incidence of Alzheimer's, et cetera, other chronic illnesses. And things that we do ingest in our daily diet will have a direct impact on the quality and specific type of gut microflora. And our microbiome is really a several pound organ in our body. It's not really an organ, but it is 90% of our DNA is microbial. It's bacterial, viral, and fungal. And it's not just a nuisance to have bacteria in your colon. It's not a nuisance at all. In fact, these bacteria, these microbes, are responsible for producing neurotransmitters, are responsible for producing antioxidants like glutathione, serotonin. They determine whether we store fat, whether we burn fat. They are really pivotal in our, not only our brain health, but our whole body health. Mm-hmm. And we're constantly putting things in our body like coffee and diet drinks. I don't, thank goodness, but people do, diet drinks, alcohol, etc., that kill the beneficial microbes. And so we need to replenish them. Many probiotics on the market. That was so cute, Kelly. I love it. Your daughter came up and gave you a hug. Many probiotics on the market, you know, that you see 135 billion colony forming units and whatnot. Sounds very impressive, but it really doesn't matter how many colony forming units are in the bottle. What matters is how many arrive alive to the distal colon. And the problem with capsules and liquids and powders, even refrigerated, freeze-dried microbes, is that they're, one, exposed to air, which damages the delicate microbes, but two, once you're swallowing them, they're exposed to the stomach acid, which is a very hostile environment for these delicate microbes, and 96% of them actually die. So only 4% of this, you know, probiotic that you're paying good money for make it alive to the colon, which is where they're needed. So there is a technology that's available, which is involves delivering the microbes in a vacuum sealed, double-walled capsule, so there is no air exposure to damage them, and the double wall is actually resistant to the stomach acid, so there's no damage from the acidic environment of the stomach. So these microbes are actually delivered, and not only delivered to the colon, but they're delivered in a layered fashion, so that the outer wall, which is obviously dissolved first, has the microbes that are better suited to the small intestine. And those that are dissolved next are better suited to the proximal colon. And those that are dissolved next are better suited to the mid colon. And then the final innards of the capsule are really the ones that are suited to the colon. So it is a beautifully designed delivery mechanism. And also to capitalize on the fact that our our gut has 80% of our immunity, it actually has an added beta-glucan, which is a patented beta-glucan called Wellmune in it, which has been clinically shown to reduce the incidence, severity, and duration of colds and flu. And this is added there as a beta-glucan, so it's a prebiotic. It feeds the beneficial bacteria, and it also improves immunity. So it's a beautiful thing. And actually, people go gaga over this probiotic. I'd taken probiotics for 10 years and never noticed one that worked, other than occasionally I would have a very untoward reaction. And this one, I'm very pleased with the results. And I hear report after report after report of how this has changed people's lives. And it seems silly to think that a probiotic can change your life, but you know, if you get, you know, traveler's stoppage, you know, and you can't go when you travel, that's no fun, right? So this really addresses that gut health and improves the braggability of your
Are we trying to be very, very good about what we're saying here? No.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about Bristol stool chart, but there is a Bristol stool chart.
I love it. I love it. Well, I mean, I guess, gosh, that it's so true. I think that there's so many on the market. How do you determine what's effective and what really is doing the job? And that's really what I love about what we're sharing is the effectiveness of understanding what we're putting in our bodies, if it's working or not. Are we actually getting the quality that we're paying for? How are we going to determine that? And that's really going to kind of wrap up what we're talking about today regarding a good omega. I mean, we know that this is across the board something that we need to incorporate in our lives. Our Western diets are void of the good fats, too much of the bad fats, the omega-6s, and then also the quality control. I mean, there's so many supplements. People are bombarded night and day with, you know, here's this is the best probiotic, this is this and that. So what I love about what we're sharing here is just not only the quality, but especially when you're taking the fish oil into play. Can you explain the significance of the fish oil that we're sharing and why we suggest this, and really the quality and just everything that encompasses why this is important and what sets it apart? I think that's what I love about all of the products we're sharing here today.
Well, absolutely. Our Western diet is so high in omega-6s, which are very inflammatory. And omega fatty acids are essential for cellular membrane composition. And there's two predominant ones, omega-6s and omega-3s, and they really compete along the same pathway. And if omega-6 is prevalent, the pathway is going to go in a direction where inflammatory end products are produced, like arachidonic acid, and that is very, very harmful. But if you can actually counterbalance that with enough omega-3s, you're gonna go in an anti-inflammatory direction. So fish oil is a great source of omega-3s, right? So I was taking fish oils for the longest time, and then even though I hated the way the fish burps and the rancidity, and it just didn't like the way they smelled, until I read the National Institute of Health, National Institute on Aging study, where they actually evaluated whether fish oils increased lifespan or not, and they found in the ones that they tested that it actually decreased lifespan. And when I read the article, it really dawned on me the reason it decreased lifespan is because most fish oils are rancid. They're oxidized. Okay, so you're ingesting oxidized oils, rancid oils. Very, very, very counterintuitive. You're putting oxidized oils into your body. That's going to increase oxidative stress. So no wonder it shortened lifespan, right? So immediately I stopped taking fish oils, and I didn't take fish oils for 3 years. I was very, very against it because I'm like, well, that's I'm not going to put oxidized oils into my body. And when LifeVantage came out with this fish oil, I was kind of like, oh, you know, very, very concerned. And then I finally went to the site and I read that this particular omega I love it. You can trace from the bottle to the boat that it was caught on. There are fish that are caught in deep waters of Alaska and Norway. So they're, you know, very, very rich in DHA and EPA. And I also love that when I was pregnant, I took DHA because I wanted my child's brain to develop. DHA is exquisitely important for neuronal development and ocular development. So when I found out this particular one has, 3-to-1 DHA to EPA ratio, I realized, wow, that's really different, because most omegas out there have a 1-to-1 ratio. And so really hard to get good quality DHA. What I loved about this is that these fish oils are processed on the boat immediately. And everything is really, really geared towards molecularly distilled. There's no PCBs, there's no lead, there's no heavy metals, mercury, and it's actually processed in inert gases. So it has the lowest oxidation levels of any omega on the market. Literally, you can put this capsule in your mouth, chew it, and it will not taste like rancid fish oil, will not taste fishy, doesn't taste, you don't taste that icky stuff. You don't get the fish burps. You can literally chew them. Kids chew them. Kids like the way they taste. It's crazy. It's so fresh, and there's not the issue of oxidation. Got the high DHA to EPA ratio, which I love for being a neuroradiologist. I'm all about the brain, right? And then they added omega-7s in there because palmitoleic acids are so instrumental for helping to create a optimal body mass composition. It helps increase lean muscle mass and decrease fat. It's really helpful for metabolic issues and that cellular communication. So it's a beautiful product that I actually love, and I take way more than the recommended dose, because I really want my omega ratio to be optimized, and I figure why not get a little bit more omega-7s too. So I love it.
Why not? I double up on it too. And I have to get you on that one. My boys chew it. It's awesome. I'm like, what? It's almost like they're eating gummy bears. I don't know. So that's something good when you're
called lemon drop.
Without you having to shove it down their throat. So, I mean, we've covered so much tonight. I would be remiss if I leave out our brain food, which you're sipping on right now, our Axio. I don't ever call it an energy drink. I like to call it more of our brain food, our brain empower. We're talking about the brain so much and how important that is. Before I shoot it over to Kelly, I know I've said that before, but I'd hate for you to leave this out. We want to hear your expertise on Axio, why it's imperative. I mean, we've seen a rise in spectrum disorder, ADHD, autism. That's a whole other thing. We should actually have you back on and we just talk about that. We could talk about that for hours. But will you just explain the incredible nature of this product and why everybody on the planet needs to be taking this NRF2 activator for the brain and the significance of what that means for all of us? Especially since our kids like the taste of it.
I love the taste of it. Yeah, I call it liquid brain food. It has NRF2 ingredients that are specifically formulated to cross the blood-brain barrier, and it also has elements that your brain needs for basically neural alpha wave activity. The L-theanine actually stimulates alpha wave activity. The magnesium is so good for relaxation. There's B vitamins. Quercetin is a wonderful phytochemical that's found in almost every fruit and vegetable. It's called the happy phytonutrient, and it really does give you a great mood, focus, calm, clarity. And there are, 2 different types. You can have the caffeinated or decaf. I do the caffeinated in the morning before a workout. It really helps me maximize my workout and puts me in a great mood for the day. And in the afternoon, the decaf just helps me stay focused and on target throughout the day. There is no afternoon slump. If I take a long drive, I am definitely taking Axio. It doesn't matter whether it's caffeinated or decaf. I can drive and not be drowsy, be completely focused. It really, it's kind of a biohacking for the brain. And I really love the fact that, people that I know that I have told about this, they have just totally foregone, people unfortunately do these stimulants and I didn't mean to say ADHD, but like Adderall and things like that kind of like designer drugs for focus. And you don't need to do that when you can activate your brain. And I love it's not meant to treat, cure, or prevent anything, but it does increase your focus and your productivity and that executive function. And so I absolutely love it.
Awesome. Well, I think we're looking at health in a new way. You've given us just a great overlying outlay of just what we have that's unique here. Things are shifting. We're at the forefront of something incredible called nutrigenomics, the science of how nutrition and genes come together. Gene expression, everything you've covered today has been so incredible, Sean. I'm going to turn it back over to Kelly. I know she probably has something else that she wants to ask you, but I just want to thank you for your time and for explaining the science to us. Hopefully we can get you back on here. I know everybody on here is going to want to hear more from you. So I just appreciate all that you shared with us regarding this incredible, we're first guys. We're first to something here that is going to take the world by storm. You're less than 1% of the population hearing this information from our incredible doctor, Dr. McKee here. So I'm going to shoot it back over to Kelly. I know that she wants to wrap up just more of like where we stand with the business, the opportunity, how incredible it is that we're able to really make a difference in people's lives. And I just want to thank you, Shawn, for giving us your time tonight. And I'll turn it back over to you, Kelly.
Wow, you guys, I mean, after hearing all that information, are you like, how can we get involved? I need this in my body and I need to share this, right? So really, my next question for Dr. McKee, I feel like is like a no-brainer, meaning like, you know, why would somebody of her caliber who has so much knowledge, you know, why would she even be interested? And I'll speak to her, you know, about learning about this sort of business because it's outside the, you know, typical practice of a neuroradiologist, right? Why would you even be open to this information and, you know, not only the products, but becoming a business owner?
Well, as I said in the beginning, you know, I realized that as a professional, I didn't have a job. I was owned by a job. I was the job. And as I kind of laid out, you know, I realized when I needed to step out for life, that there was a big problem. There was a big problem. And I didn't like where that basically pinned me. I felt trapped. I felt completely unable to respond to the needs of life and my family, and I did not like that. And so the answer came, you know, with how am I going to deal with this from a health perspective? How am I going to stay responsive and awake enough and in a good mood enough and physically well enough to handle the stressors that life was throwing at me? But also, how am I going to financially help, you know, my family deal with everything that's coming around and not have to dig out not only from the financial hole that being away from a practice for 2 weeks puts you in, but also in the catch-up mode, the time hole. There was a financial hole and there was a time hole that when I came back, it was heck, you know, it was like, you know, really, really hard. And you still had all the needs and the pull of your family having been away for a long time and your sick relative and, you know, all of this. It was just it was basically a God thing saying, look, you need to figure out something else you can do that will help people and allow you to be facile and responsive to the needs of your family. So when the opportunity came to move my practice to a wellness center where I wouldn't be tied to a patient schedule and I could actually do things kind of as a contract thing, it was just kind of like everything just kind of aligned where I could be responsive and start sharing this way of helping people. Did not have any intention of building a business, but when I started to see the response that people were having after I shared it with them, just because I cared about them, and started listening randomly to various people talking about this particular industry and how it is real and da-da-da, I was like, well, maybe I'll look into this. And I just had fallen in love with the whole concept of sharing information that people need to know, letting them make up their own mind, and being a recipient of a weekly thank you check just because I care enough about people to share some great information. So it's been really nice.
Oh, I love that, right? Just caring enough about people to share information and the company pays you. That's really, really incredible. And maybe you can kind of end tonight with, you know, what's been the most unexpected benefit of sharing this information? It may be what you just talked about. It may be some people's experiences, but what has been the most unexpected benefit for you that you could, like, you know, share as an exciting tip for everybody out there listening?
Well, first of all, definitely, as I was saying, I'm helping people. I'm actually collecting stories every single day I get. Thank yous, and my life has changed, and this is so much better, and I no longer have to deal with this and that and the other. And it's really gratifying to get these messages and read these stories every single day. That never happened in radiology. I could tell somebody, yes, you have a meningioma, and it's, you know, there's subfalcine herniation and, you know, blah, 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 or you have a herniated disc and it's impinging the left S1 nerve root, and that's what, you know, these things were helpful to the neurosurgeon who could potentially help the patient, but I wasn't directly helping a person. Whereas today, because I'm sharing information, I didn't develop this technology, but I'm the source of the information. The person would not have found out about it if I hadn't opened my mouth to tell them about it or tell somebody who told them about it. So it is very gratifying to know that, people's lives are changing because of something I put into motion. That's one thing. The other thing is the relationships. People, I get to meet people like you and Jenny, who are just amazing people that I would have never come across. And, you know, I want to surround myself with people like you, and everyone else that my business and my team are attracting is, you know, just a side benefit that really makes me so, you know, thankful that I decided to go down this path, because you all and this business have enhanced my life tremendously. So.
Wow, like so honored, right? I think Jenny and I feel the exact same way and are so honored. And I hope every one of you guys listening to this understands that the products are absolutely amazing. There is an opportunity to share this with all the people that you love and care for all around the world. And unlike anything else in traditional business, you get to be building a business with like-minded people that are happy and motivated and will help you at the drop of a hat. And it's just something that we don't traditionally get to experience in this world. So it's something like really no other opportunity. And so again, Jenny and I feel blessed, Dr. McKee, that you've taken tonight and shared with our listeners. And if you still have just a minute or two, I don't know, Jenny, if there's any chats that kind of people ask questions, and maybe we'll just take 2 or 3 quick questions, if that would be okay with you.
Sure.
Let me check here. I have to see, I know we kind of announced it, but I'm not seeing really any questions right now. You guys are missing out, just saying. No. I'm not seeing anything.
I've answered all the questions.
I think you covered it
a
so
rock star,
Dr. McKee. We don't even know what else to say. I mean, you've left us flabbergasted, and likewise, to be able to be changing the world and to be able to making a difference with women like yourself, it's been a blessing and a pleasure. And I guess we'll wrap it up here. I'll be getting the recording out. Please share it with your teams, with people that you know that need to hear this information. Get with the person that invited you. We can give you more information. I always like to say we meet people where they're at, whether it just be somebody that wants to incorporate this on their, you know, daily regimen, or whether it's looking at something like, look, I want to be a part of something great with these incredible women and changing the world. Oh, we did get a question that came through. Do you mind if I ask before I wrap it up? She wants to know specifically about strokes. Specifically when you're dealing with strokes, and I believe traumatic brain injury, how that affects NRF1 or NRF2 activation helps with that, is what the question is. Right, Janine?
Yeah, basically NRF2 activation is going to help the body recover itself. I mean, it basically helps the body protect, detoxify, quell that free radical damage, that cascade that can occur in the brain, especially after stroke or traumatic brain injury. And that whole penumbra that I was talking about, that area that was susceptible to future damage from the stroke or from the brain injury, that area that's so susceptible, when you can decrease that inflammation, cytokines, oxidative stress in that area, there's a tremendous potential for the brain to actually heal and recover in those areas particularly.
I love it. So we have another question that just came in that actually I wanted to ask you, and it's from Samantha Allen, and she says, why is it that healthy people who are already eating organic, exercising, do all the right things, which is the place that I was at when I started on these products, why are they still coming down with illness and disease? And why do they need activation versus supplementation? Well, thank you, Sam. As always, good questions from you.
Yeah, Sam, great question. And that was me. I mean, I was 6 years ago or 7 years ago, I was, you know, an Ironman triathlete, ultramarathoner, CrossFit. You know, I always got my name up on the board for, you know, doing the most wall balls or whatever. And, you know, I was, you know, physically fit and eating right and the right weight and all that. And I was exhausted. And I myself was the sickest healthy person. And then I would go, well, wait, am I the healthiest sick person I know, or am I the sickest healthy person I know? Because I was always getting a cold. Whenever anybody got something, I came down with it. Boom, you know. And it was because I was overtaxing my body's ability to respond to these stressors. And it's because my NRF2 was, you know, up as much as it could be with exercise, but it wasn't optimized. And, you know, broccoli and, you know, organic fruits and vegetables and, you know, grass-fed meats and all, they're giving you the nutritional backbones, the nutritional building blocks, but it's not putting you back to the level of a healthy child in terms of your ability to react and respond to the stressors of the environment. And this environment that we live in today is not like our moms and dads' environment when they were growing up or when they were adults. there's a lot more toxic load that we're subjected to. EMF, fumes, fluoride and chlorine in our drinking and swimming water. It's just a really different world, and a lot more oxidative stress and damaging chemicals, compounds, and other things that we're exposed to that we need to be reacting to. And a healthy, the Dalai Lama has oxidative stress. Okay, a healthy diet only goes so far, and you need to really activate this NERV2 pathway to kind of supercharge your ability to respond to the environment.
Well, I love that we're looking at health in a different way. We're understanding that activating our God-given abilities, our God-given gifts, and our God-given ways of healing is really more powerful than anything else we can do regarding supplementation. So thank you for that question, Sam. And I'm going to wrap it. We're going here on about 40 minutes. Want to be respectful of Dr. McKee's time. So thank you again, guys. And it's been great connecting. We'll see you next Tuesday, and look forward to our schedule for our next great interview. And thanks, guys, for connecting. Love you, girls.
Thanks, everybody.
Wonderful talking to you. Thank you. Bye, Kelly. Bye, Jenny.
Bye.